mentioned, it says my connection is unstable. I hope you can hear me. I've started studying the Bhagavad Gita about 3 years ago. And I started it because I wanted to learn Sanskrit, and the Bhagavad Gita is beautiful. So I thought, let's start with studying Gitaji. But what happened is something quite unexpected. And for that, I'll just give you the background. I come from Switzerland, quite a secular country, and I've been brought up atheist, materialistic and individualistic and scientific. So there's no notion of God in my upbringing. And there's even less notion of devotion. So this is completely foreign surrounding here. And so when I came to India, I was always looking at people expressing devotion with a sense of misunderstanding what I could not relate in any way in what they were saying. But I started studying Bhagavad Gita with a very devoted teacher. Her name is Nanima. Some of you might know her. And so I started learning it in a very traditional way, which is that it's not a book, it's a sacred, very, very holy text. And so it's being treated with tremendous respect and reverence. And so when we study Gitaji, you need to wash your hand, you need to wash your face, wash your mouth if you've been eating, so that you can be as pure as possible to touch and to utter those phrases, which is very foreign for here would know. And so when you study it, you would be just reading, and then suddenly you touch your face, and your teacher's like, what are you doing? You touch your face, go wash your hand, you're not clean anymore. So you go and you wash your hand and you come back, and you study again and you touch your mouth, and your teacher's like, what are you doing? And you're like, what am I doing? Oh, I'm touching my face again. I need to go wash my hand. And so I would do that more out of respect for my teacher, but it really didn't mean much for me. It was just, okay, that's what one does. But after a while of doing that, and after hearing so much, hearing the Bhagavad Gita spoken not as it, but as her, that is Gitaji, that is a goddess, an incarnation of the divine in a scripture to speak of itself. After hearing that and being invited in that energy more and more, suddenly this is what Gitaji, really the divine manifesting through words as a way to describe itself, speak of itself, and teach itself about itself. And so there's the discovery of a great love and a great respect and a continuous sense of awe for a teaching that is so generous. Gitaji is incredibly generous. You open her, and there she is, ready to guide you wherever you're at, one step forward on the path. And it's like a companionship, a complete companionship. So of course, reading Gitaji on a regular basis, I cannot, it started to have a big influence on the way I'm relating to my day-to-day life as well. And especially, or ways to address the incredible amount of psychological suffering that we are all witnessing. As Swamiji mentioned, I work as a psychiatrist. The whole day, people are coming to share with me their despair, their loss of hope, their struggle, their fears. And there is more and more, especially because of the situation with the COVID, there's a greater and greater intensity of psychological suffering, actually. You probably have noticed it, but it's well known. Actually, the WHO has recognized depression as the first cause of disability in 2020. And burnout, which is, I'll speak a bit more about what it is. Burnout as an illness is increasing. All the studies are showing is massively increasing in Western culture. And so let us speak a little bit about how the in-depth teachings of Gitaji can actually open a very concrete doorways into a different way to relate to, and how it's not philosophical, it's very much applicable, and so much needed in these times. Actually, everybody should read Gitaji, I think. But if we speak of burnout, most of you might know, but I might just repeat that there's specific components of burnout, and one of them is exhaustion. When people, most people with burnout are oftentimes people who have a very good level of functioning. They have good jobs, they're efficient, they're oftentimes nurses and doctors and teachers and social workers, and or people working at high levels in companies. They're usually really well-grounded, solid people, and that suddenly get into an accelerating loop where they become exhausted, and really exhausted. It's burnout, they don't for a couple of weeks, it's a few months, it's usually 4 to 5 months to recover. So it's massive exhaustion. And there's more and more of this exhaustion. If we're looking around, this year specifically in my office, I've met a lot of doctors, so ER docs, very sharp and working usually 12 to 15 hours, and they suddenly collapse. They can't anymore, from one day to another, unable to do anything. And so there's this great sense of exhaustion. And so we'll speak about that. But another aspect of loss of people don't know why they're getting up in the morning anymore. The reasons why they started to study and do their job suddenly is disappear, and there's no sense anymore, no purpose, no joy, no interest even. And so how, let's speak about those two domains of exhaustion and loss of meaning. And first let's explore a little bit one way to look at them, and then how the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita can offer a doorway into relating to them differently. So exhaustion is more and more prevalent, and there is really a social context for that. It's not just the COVID, which is accelerating it, but it's been happening for a few years because of the social media, because of the amount of information that we can work with. Our brain is constantly hyperactivated. And so that creates an acceleration of our mind. Our minds are extremely rapid and constantly shifting from one place to another. There's very little sense of pause and rest in our day-to-day life, which is increasing the exhaustion. But one thing that really gets us tired is the sense of doership. We have all been brought up in the Western culture with this very strong belief that I'm in charge. I do. Those are my choices. It's my life. If I make the right effort, if I make the right choices, I can do all of that. I'm very much in charge of my destiny. And not only that, but if I do it, I'll be happy. So there's two enormous lies there that we are being brought up in, that we're in charge. We are the doer, that I am doing what I do, everything I do. And it's in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it says that the deluded ego, even though everything is arising in front of it, the whole world is this constant flux of the nature and the gunas, and everything is just constantly moving, one thing leading to another, even though all of that is flowing, the ego says, I'm doing. And that there's this very strong belief we all have that we are deciding and making and achieving and succeeding. And in Bhagavad Gita, it says that this is a massive delusion that we are confused by. And so this delusion, this habit that we have to believe creates a tremendous sense of responsibility, because if I'm in charge, if I can choose my life, if I can do everything, and the premise of that is that if I do it well, I'll be happy, then I have this tremendous responsibility. Everything I do, I'm the one in charge. When it fails, it's terrible. When it succeeds, it's not good enough. It's creating in our mind what we all know really well, and it's a sense of a very strong self-critic. We all have, and especially in the Western world, there's been studies backing that up, that we all have a very, very strong self-critic. This little voice that keeps saying that it's not good enough, I should be, I should become, I should do, and I should achieve more. And I'm responsible of everything that happens to me. Is tremendously exhausting. This is why when we seemingly have achieved everything that we had wanted, when people get their good job, get their nice house, the nice spouse, the nice children, the nice holidays, the nice everything, and it's not, they're not happy, then there's this, which is usually what happens, because none of that actually does lead to happiness. Then when we're getting there and we're not happy, we are responsible of our own unhappiness, and that creates tremendous amount of depression. So the sense of doership is a big theme in Bhagavad Gita, that we are not the doer, we are not in charge. There is no one there that can claim ownership of anything that is happening. And that's something we can hear and read and say, yeah, that's right, I got. Actually, most of us don't really completely believe that, and this is why we're very much bounded and unfree. And a good question to ask about that topic is to really question ourselves: where do I believe that I am really in charge? For example, Swamiji, Yoga Swarupa Nandaji Swamiji was speaking this morning about the breath, which we're not doing, the heartbeat we're not doing. So that's very clear. We can. It's very profound to realize, yes, I'm not breathing, I'm not heart beating, I'm not doing this body. So when we look at that, we can say yes, and that's a good start. But usually there are other things that we feel it's more challenging, like when we do something poorly, when we make a mistake, when we fail at something. I realized that we were not the doer, that we were part of this tremendous movement of the gunas within the gunas, those qualities of manifestation intertwined between each other and unfolding one after another. And so to really pause and to question, where is the sense of doership in my own system? Where am I believing and very much being attached to that sense that I do, it's my will? And it's a very confronting question, but one that I invite you to explore, because when we start dismantling that, when we start to really have a very loving and serious conversation with our mind, and we tell to our minds, look, you're thinking you're in charge, but really, are you? And to really question it until we can really see that, no, I'm not. Just like I'm no doubt sleep, the breath is breathing, I'm not the one doing it. So if we can do that with all those other topics that we feel we are the doer, and progressively expose them, so it requires some integrity and some courage to expose them and to really question them. You think you've done that, but really, have you? For example, if you pass an exam, we tend to be very proud of passing an exam, and really, have you done it? And the answer would be, yes, of course I've done it. Well, okay, but I'm asking you a question. And right now, if I ask you, how much is 64 minus 17? Everybody's gonna calculate. Don't, it's painful. And then an answer is gonna come, but how have you done that? When somebody asks you a question and you reply, how do you do that? And you're hearing, how do you do that? I'm not doing it. I don't know how it happens. I'm grateful and in awe for words to come out, especially that I would look quite silly if they weren't at that moment. But there's no sense of how could I ever say that I'm doing that? It just flows, it comes. And so that's this type of inquiry that we can have with our own sense of doership to really start realizing more and more this sense of complete absence of my own will in that all of it is a dance, a flow, a mystery of this constantly unfolding presence manifesting as form, and that seemed to expand itself as this form right now. And I can be grateful and humbly in awe in front of it, but I can in no way take any ownership. And what happens when more and more through that lens of undoership, the sense of responsibility is being transformed from responsibility to responsibility, the ability to respond. So I'm not in charge, but I'm able to respond. And when we shift from responsibility to the ability to respond, it's a sense of participation. It's the gratitude of being able to contribute to this world, to this moment. And that's it, no more, no ownership of any of that. The following aspect that Gita-ji addresses very much in many chapters about in the Bhagavad Gita is that sense that the impact of the absence of a doer, when it's not my will, when I realize that, then the fruit of my action, the results, don't belong to me either. I do and I go on, I do and I go on, and I do in line with where I'm at, what's being offered to me as an opportunity to do. I do it with a sense of gratitude for the opportunity to be part of this amazing movement that is the present moment. And then the impact, the result, all of that, there is not a glimpse of interest. It's like writing a poem on water. At every moment, we write a letter, and as soon as it's written, it disappears. And it's not writing a poem so that the poem is being scripted into the ocean. It's writing a poem for the beauty of it, no other reason. And that's this shift from responsibility to able to respond. And a tremendous relief of that sense of exhaustion that we all have at the end of the day when we've had so much to do, and we still have so much to do when actually we don't. We're just dancing. So that's for the theme of exhaustion and questioning the sense of doership. But the other theme is, which is connected, is the loss of meaning. And to the degree that our actions are to get something for someone else, for a result, whether there can be some very sattvic results, but as long as an action is to grab something at the end, there's fulfillment there, because truly it is not meaningful. There's no deeper meaning than the one of realizing the constant unfolding of the divine and the participating of it. And that when every action, every movement becomes a way to celebrate, a way to say, I love you, I thank you, the way to express awe, and a way to bow. In that domain, the more meaningful they are. And most of us are completely disconnected in the West in that type of meaning. And this is why so many people experience a complete loss of meaning in their work. If it's to become and to achieve and to get, whether that's being given or not, it is never fulfilling. And that's the main reason for that loss of meaning I was referring before. So that also can be we can hear this teaching. Yes, don't be attached to the fruit of action. We can hear it over and over and say, yeah, I got it. I see it. But then there's really a time to contemplate and inquire very sharply in our day-to-day life. At those moments, we are not acting without being attached to the fruit of action. Really attached to a result, attached to a type of input, and to really, like what I did before with the doer, to get into a conversation with those habits of the mind when they come. Once we've done something and we feel pride, to really pause and say, wait, is that what you've done it? You talk to the ego. It's we can have very gentle conversation with the ego, just like with a child. It needs to be taught. It doesn't know, it doesn't exist. It really believes it's right there, and it's so important, and it has such relevance, and so we can have very loving conversation with our ego when it takes that shape. Same also when we feel like we haven't succeeded in something, or we wanted a different impact or result, to really also say, okay, but that we've read it, you've studied it, you've been told by so many enlightened masters, you know that deeply. So how about applying it now in this context? And whatever you have done, don't look back, and continue that flow. So those are two different domains of that teaching that make tremendous sense in relating to this the burnout that so many of us are suffering from. And I would love to have questions or inputs from you regarding that topic. I'm a bit confused about the timing. If this is a time where I should can continue, because I can too. Swamiji or someone, do I have more time? Otherwise, I'll just continue.
Dominique, we lost you a bit. What were you asking?
I was asking how much time I still have.
You still have. Did you want to do a meditation? You were thinking of doing a meditation.
It's possible if there's time for it. I'm just a bit lost with the track of time. So
no, you've got definitely another 15 minutes. So you
wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. Sorry, my apologies for that. So now, when we what happens? Less and less a sense of doership is there in our activity. And when less and less we are attached to the result of our actions, what happens when we shift from being in charge to participating, from wanting to celebrating? So what happens when we shift from those places is that the mental habits that we have to criticize, to judge, to spend a lot of time in negative thought pattern. I should have, will have, I must strive more, I must, all of this very negative thinking that we have. The more we ground on ourselves in that trusted movement, that there's a will beyond mind that moves through me and as me, surrender more in that flow, the more actually there is space in our mind. We spend so much time worrying and thinking about ourselves. I mean, if we had a small radio station recording and then playing to us the content of our mind, we would not like it. We would not like to hear it. It would be incredibly boring and repetitive. And a lot of it would be a lot of thoughts about what we do, how we do, how we could do, how we should do, how we will, isn't it? An incredible amount of time there. And so when that gets reduced, when suddenly there's less and less of this inner conversation because it is not relevant anymore. If I'm not the doer and if I don't need to attach to the fruit of action, okay, no need to think about all of those things. And so the amount of inner struggle reduces tremendously. And there's more and more space for what? And for that, I'll share with you, there's one of my favorite shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's in the 6th chapter, the chapter about meditation. And it says, Yatro paramate chittam nirodam yogasevaya yatra chaivat manatmanam pashyanat manitushyati. So it says, there's a moment where after the practice of yoga, after the practice of seva, when everything becomes an offering, when all of our actions are in this sense of gift to celebrate the moment one after another. So the more we engage in that, and what happens is there's a quietening of the mind. And then what happens there, and that's the second part of the shloka, is that one starts to see the Atman. When one sees the Atman, in the Atman, and through the Atman. That is to say that one starts to see, when we look everywhere, we only see the divine. Everything is the divine. And we see that everything that we see is in the divine, through the divine. So it's the divine looking at itself, within itself, through itself. And that when that happens, there is contentment, there is happiness. So when the mind slows down, because it is not so busy anymore with the quarrels of life, with the personal story, with the tremendous challenge of achieving and getting things done and being the one doing things, when that reduces and the mind comes down to rest, and actions are just an offering, a movement of serving, celebrating, dancing, bowing, awing the divine, then that allows suddenly to see, there's more space, so we can see, we can look. And when we stop looking at what is through the lenses of the ego, when we stop looking at the reality in front of us through that lens, we start to see that all of it is divine. All of it is the manifestation of God. All of it is the unfolding of consciousness. And we see that all of what we see is contained. It's not just a manifestation, it's also held, embraced, contained, created by something mysterious, beyond all understanding, and at the same time, the most intimate of our being. And that actually what sees that right now, what sees the marvel of manifestation, is nothing else than the mystery itself. And so every moment is realized as a witnessing of the divine within itself by the divine itself. This quality, realizing this quality of being that is allowed by sadhana, it's a space that is being created by this progressive reduction of the time we spend in taking care of this very demanding ego doing its job to get a result. And there's a spontaneous unfolding that happens. It's quite a mysterious. Most of you probably know that there's a moment of magic where, you know, our story disappears, or the world disappears, all of our worries disappears, and it's not empty. What remains is definitely not empty. It's vibrating, it's alive, it's ungraspably beautiful and completely unknowable. And it's just right there at the surface, being brought up when this reduces. So maybe we could do that, a few minutes of meditation. When I say do that, it's see how language is creating I just spent the whole time saying we're not doing, and now I say let's do that. This is how language actually is conditioning our mind. We're using language which is in duality, and so we keep reinforcing more and more by language this misunderstanding that we are doing. I don't know how else to do it, but to be aware of how we speak. So if you'd like to join me, we can sit a little bit in meditation and explore a little bit of that movement of releasing the doer, and just to watching what's happening. In the third chapter, there's this sloka that said that guna guneshu vartanta, it has the qualities of reality. Everything we see, everything that is manifest, they're all dancing, moving within themselves, unfolding one after another. Guna guneshu vartanta. And iti madvana sajjati, when one sees that, when one realizes that it is just a dance, the dance of Shiva, it is just a constant flow. When one sees that, then one is not attached, one is not caught. And when one is not caught, then what comes at the foreground is this realization of the divine within itself, witnessed by itself. So let's sit a little bit with that, a few minutes before we end tonight. This question, or by simply releasing any sense of effort. Right now, you do not need to do anything. There is nothing to do. Nothing to achieve, nothing to get, no one to become, no freedom to reach, no divine to unite with. Releasing completely any sense that there is something and someone to do. Give the doer a moment of holiday. Rock it in sleep. It has no job now. So there is no one needing to do anything right now. And there's nothing to expect either. Nothing that will come out of this moment. No success, no failure. And bringing the mind to a deep sense of rest. When it has nothing to do, the ego slows down. And when it is seen for a movement of the divine, it actually dissolves. Let the mind bow down into silence. And now look as the mind bows down, slows down, as the whole tension of being and becoming is being dissolved like the smoke of incense into the air. Then look vividly, lovingly at this moment. Look at that flow, breath, breathing, heart beating, sounds, thoughts, images. Open your heart and embrace the whole movement and madness of the world. Embracing and witnessing that tremendous flow, continuous. One thing leading to another, to another, to another. How could there not be awe in front of all that? No effort, no doing, and it all is unfolding right here in front of you. And when we can look at this whole flow, seeing it for what it is, whether it is beautiful or terrible, joyful or sad, whether we see harmony or disharmony, we look beyond that. We see beyond that duality and remain only in awe in front of the mystery of that. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyanatmani tushyati. When one sees the self within the self, through the self, one is fulfilled. Taking a deep breath in and exhale. And I wish you all to continue enjoying the dance. And I look forward to our continuing exploration for the rest of the retreat. Thank you again for the possibility to participate, the joy of being here. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for a wonderful talk, wonderful meditation. And I am sure that all of us can really relate to what you're talking about. We all know the pain that comes from this strong sense of doership. And there would be nothing worse than feeling there is no meaning to life. And so to be able to understand how to really look at our own experience and see, am I really the doer? And the way you showed us, I mean, is incredibly helpful. And the way the Gita, through your words, gives total meaning to our life, if we can let go of the ego. So it was just beautifully said, and I really, really appreciate it. And I know a question came in for you, and I just want to say that Dominique and I will be taking questions in the first session on the 31st. So please send your questions. Any questions you have, please send them in. Biping, are you around? Oh no, Biping's not here. Anyways, there is.
She's here.
Oh, Biping, can you just say how do you send the questions in again?
Through the form on the website.
Okay, yeah, the form on the website, yes.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. But when when Dominique and I do the questions, it won't be broadcast on YouTube. It will be just on Zoom, because the puja will be broadcast. The worship, of the 31st will be broadcast on that day. So we will be on Zoom, and it can be a little informal also. So any questions that come in through the way Biping just said, we can do, and then also we can just open it up to questions as well, right, Dominique? If we have time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it'll be a little bit more informal session
Yes.
with us. And so you're welcome. Please do send questions, because we only have 3 so far anyway. So there's lots of room there for us. And so there was a very good question that came in for you, but I think we have to wait until Friday morning, 31st morning.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So thank you again very much, Dominique, and thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you tomorrow. Ariom.
गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय दशरथ कुमार चारों भाई 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 की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय दशरथ कुमार चारों भाई की जय जय दशरथ कुमार चारों भाई की जय 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 गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद 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 जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय राम जी की जय जय लक्ष्मण जी की जय जय दशरथ कुमार भाई की जय जय दशरथ कुमार भाई की जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद 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 जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय 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 राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय ओम बोल कृष्ण भगवान की वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय Adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Thou art Satchitananda, existence, consciousness and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptations and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, greed, hatred, anger and jealousy. Fill our heart with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever upon our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all beings in this universe, and peace be unto you all. God bless you.